Hello Internet, hello, I am Jackie Fox. Welcome to Fox Talks Gaming, where we're going to be talking about the second part of the Palworld breeding guide. This video is going to assume that you've already watched part 1 of the guide. You already know how to bake cake because that's a big part of the whole breeding system here. And assuming that you know how to bake cake and you know the basics about how to explore, we're going to talk about what you need to catch and what you need to breed to get some of the best in-game pals. And these are specifically the pals that you're going to be facing as tower bosses, so you know they've got to be good. They are among the strongest in the game, and also some of the best for utility purposes as well. So this is really going to upgrade your base, this is going to upgrade your combat, this is going to upgrade your ability to explore the world. It's going to do basically everything for you. And I've tried to design this guide based off of an IGN guide that was designed by like 15 different people. I say this as a credit. A lot of people working on the way that guide works, but I want to make a couple tweaks and add at least one pal and try to incorporate Missandei especially, but other pals more often so that you can catch less and breed more. And this also creates more points where good genetics can get kind of piled up on one pal, and then that pal gets reused to add those traits to future generations, so that when we finally get to the point where we're breeding something like a Grisbolt or a Shadowbeak, we're going to have something that is really worthy in its passives and going to be pretty powerful. Now, this isn't exactly in-game breeding, trying to get like 4 maxed passive traits on stuff and all of that, but it will get you pretty close and give you some of the best stuff in the game, and obviously a great start for breeding anything else. And as it stands, like, you should also kind of familiarize yourself with what some of the passives are. One of the best being Lucky, but there are also some other really cool passives. And you're going to want to pick parents, male and female, that have the best passives. Now, they could pass those along, and they could have an offspring that has completely new passives, but they are more likely to get what their parents had, or some combination of those positive traits. For each egg, you're going to have to make 1 cake. Once again, just made a video on how to make cake, so that is pretty simple. And a good fire type like Phalaris here, which I'll show you how to make later in the video, is really good at baking cakes. So, in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to take you from 0 to hero, from the earliest pals in the game, some of the earliest bosses. We start by breeding those, and we get to the final boss, or one of the final bosses of the game. So, at least the final boss of the game that you can just breed. And all while only having to go out and catch maybe 4 or 5 things. Typically also alpha bosses. So that means they're going to have a fixed location where you can always face off against them at the same spot, and you won't have to hunt for many of these. The ones you will be hunting for, you'll run into in the same areas, and they're just so abundant. Like, you're going to see so many Missandei as you follow this guide that, you know, just catch a lot, and you'll eventually find one that has really good traits that you'll want to pass on to your next generation of Grisbolts or Ozark or whatever they breed into. So, with all of that being said, I also want to show you a neat trick for leveling up the new workhorses that you're going to be breeding through the system. My example here is the Azerobi that I have. It's already gotten to a level 11 from me baking a couple of berries. About 40. So I'm going to bake another 40 with Phalaris after I figure out how to get it to the other stove. Here we go. Phalaris cooks berries at an incredible pace, and you can just see the levels cranking up on Azerobi, and also my Wixen, which is also in the teens. just making those 80 baked berries already has both of them at like level 14, level 16, and here we can easily grind out another 100 with Polaris to get us closer to level 20. I like to try to get things to about this level before I put them to work, because they're not going to level up nearly as fast on your base as they can in your party. So you're really going to be power leveling some of these, and it helps to know that really anything that you can build and build a lot of quickly, especially really basic builds that have basic build requirements that you can just crank out, those are good for power leveling. Our first breeding combination is going to be two of the first bosses in the game, some really funny looking ones, Sweepa and Gumas. Sweepa here can be found with his fellow Swee, and you'll find him on the map as an alpha boss in one of the first areas you're going to be in. Gumas is also really easy to find on the map as well, so I'm not going to give you in-depth information on them. Rubies are also all throughout the beginning areas, so this is an alternate path you could take. You'd have to breed that with a Pin King, and we do have an Alpha Pin King on the map. So I believe this is the Sealed Realm of the Frozen Wings. Yep. Alright, that pistol really made short work of him. And we're gonna already see if we can capture him in the basic balls. Oh man, he's really dancing around them, but this is just, leave a Mega Sphere, so pretty basic. And yep, we got him. Also, leveled up to level 49. Congratulations us. Really need those tech points now. And all these are going to combine to Kitsun, which is one of the better mounts in the game. Very fast on ground, good jumps, and also gives you complete temperature resistance while riding. I'm personally not sure how helpful that last bit is, in that you will eventually have to get off your mount, and at that point you'll probably want to have the proper gear because temperatures can be really rough. But it is a good mount. Sweepa that we saw earlier and Dire Howl can combine to make our next POW, but that Dire Howl can also combine with Nightwing, who is very likely your first flying mount. And I kind of recommend it, although kind of weak, kind of skippable. If you can get into this breeding guide without having one of these, that's perfectly fine, because we'll get you a good flying mount relatively soon. If you do want to find one that you can get to pretty reliably, though, then you're going to be fast traveling to right about here, because you can see him on the coast. So there's maybe 2 or 3 places that we could come from, but I like cliff jumping, so let's cliff jump from over here. I know this is going to have a pretty high elevation. By the way, one of my definitely my favorite glider is Gale Claw. Killamari is also pretty cool, but Celeray. I guess Killamari's okay. So if you can find a Gale Claw while you're doing this, really, really good glider. Grab the gloves, they're excellent. And this here, by the way, is my Shadow Beak. This is the ultimate goal of this guide, and one of the best flying mounts / one of the best combat pals in the game. This guy absolutely puts people to shame, and when you see how quickly he's going to defeat this Nightwing, ooh boy. So let's just drop in from overhead. Now remember that if you run out of stamina, you're going to fall straight down with a glider like this, and Gale Claw does not fall quickly, so you've got to time a lot of the falls yourself and use him to catch yourself from taking damage. But also, you can shoot from him, so you can initiate this fight as you're falling through the air, which is pretty cool, because before Nightwing even hit the ground, Shadowbeak was already ready to ruin his life. So let's dispose of this body by quickly pushing it into this local body of water. But yeah, if you wanted a Nightwing, especially a big one, this is where you could catch a ridiculously sized trophy flying mount, and also you could find a Celeray here apparently. And in addition to all that, just check out, there is a effigy right across from this place too. Neat. Either of those combinations is going to bring you to Rayhound, which is one of the best ground mounts in the game. Now, you already had Direhow, who's pretty fast, has good jumps, but this guy can double jump, and he can power your base later on once you get into the powered age. But we're also going to be building some, or breeding some really, really strong electric types as well, so you probably won't actually be using that one in particular. But another breeding combination that I want to add in here of my own is Azarobi. Azarobi is the best waterer on your base, and you're going to need a waterer both to tend your crops, but also to turn your mill and produce flour. So Azarobis can be really important on a breeding farm. Now, Azarobis can be made with Missandei and one of two other units, and then there's another breeding pair that I want to talk about later, but luckily I have this lucky Missandei here, and they can be found all throughout the map. Very big section in the middle that we went through while we were catching things for the cake farm, hopefully, but you can check that out on the map as well. They are all over the place. Look for Missandei Hill especially. You can breed that either with Anubis or Serpent, and let me show you where you can find Serpent, because there's only a few places actually. But if you don't have an Anubis, you haven't bred one yet, and we'll show you how to breed one a little bit later in the guide, then you're going to want to do this with Serpent if you really need that water for your cake farm early, and you probably will. Serpent himself is also a good watering can, but Azarobi just kind of outclasses him. Another option, Vanworm is one that you're going to be using a lot, but here's also breeding him with Bushi. Bushi is also an alpha boss that you can pick up, and this is like right within where you're going to want to be for hunting Mazzarinas to get your milk for your cakes. So this is just perfect. I think I've stunned this guy with the sheer audacity of attacking a swordsman with only a sword. I think maybe he respects and honors me, and that's why he's not attacking back, or maybe he just doesn't have a close range game, which is kind of surprising, being a swordsman. But he's certainly got some cool range skills, and is... I don't know if he glitched, but maybe he's just really easy to catch if you just get up in his face and melee him. I don't know. Seems like a bold move to go with a level 23 field boss, but it is what it is. Bushi is an easy one to capture really early on, so that could make your Azarobi as well if you breed it with a Vanworm. And these guys are all over the same places as Mazzarinas, so you may catch one of these as well. Just keep to the skies, they're all over the place. Keep an eye to the sky. They're also kind of nocturnal, so you will see them both day... Well, actually, oh, I'm sorry. They're diurnal, just to introduce a new word for you. They are awake both day and night, different times. It's not that they never sleep, but they don't sleep consistently in either. They hunt sometimes during the night, sometimes during the day. So you can see these all times of night, and they're one of the few flyers that isn't on the ground during the night as well. As a lot of them kind of like roost at night, like Nightwing will. Which is maybe a way of catching Nightwing if you don't have any ranged means of provoking the fight. But again, it's really easy to instigate the fight with the alpha, so that's why I recommend the field boss, which is instantly also in this box. This will bring you to Azarobi, who has a watering skill of 3. It's not quite watering 4, but German Tide is massive and often glitches out in your base. There aren't a lot of things that you need water for, but cake farming is pretty water intensive, especially because of the mill, so having a water 3 or 2 on your base is really important for you and really helpful, so I figured I'd include a way to breed those. The next up though, we are going to improve your mount game. You've already got one of the better ground mounts in the game in Rayhound, and also Kitsun in any of the places where you need temperature resistance. You also have Nightwing, so let's breed that Nightwing with a Relaxosaurus, which can be caught in a large area of the map, but concentrated kind of in the early grasslands near some of the beginner islands. They're pretty big and hard to miss. They stick out like a sore thumb pretty much anywhere they are, and they really love to chill. Those two things will give you the chillest, cutest, cuddliest looking dragon ever, Wyvern. Not particularly fast, but it does have a sprint mode. It is a huge upgrade from Nightwing, but also an incredible worker. I mean, gathering, handiwork, mining, and transporting. This guy will help on the farm, he'll mine stuff, he'll help on the assembly line, and he'll move stuff from other people who have mined or collected materials around your base, but haven't brought them to a box yet. Really just a great one to have a couple of, breed a few. And then our next combo is going to be that Bushi again, we're going to bring that, and then a Toko Toko as well. You can find these throughout the desert, especially if you're looking for high quality POW oil, and they'll often just find you. And this is pretty terrifying and produces some of the same problems as catching the bees that I was talking about in the first video. Don't get bodied, folks. They can be tough ones. Usually they can't take you out themselves, their explosions actually don't deal that much damage, but if you've already been dealt a good bit of damage by someone else, bum rushing can really take you out. Those two combined is going to give you Verdash. This is also a field boss that you could catch, as I have here. I actually didn't breed one of these, this is one of the ones I skipped, but this is definitely going to help on the farm with planting 2, handiwork 3, so very high in handiwork. Very high gathering 3 is also going to help on the farm. Lumbering 2 is going to help remove trees, and transporting 2 will help move things around. So next up, we have another use for Masanda, and then we're going to breed that Masanda with Patalia. So Patalia is a field boss, but also I want to show you just this moment of joy. This is, and listen for it. Listen carefully. Do you hear that sound? That's the sound of Palworld's equivalent to a shiny, a lucky, and you will see it sparkling here soon. And then there's a point where I think that I lose it, and I'm very sad, and then I hear it again, and it's the most glorious thing, and I chase it down, and I find it. I was tracking it by sound at one point, and oh, what a glorious bastard this is. They're also a bit bigger than a normal one, although future Luckies that are bred from them don't necessarily have that trait as well, I don't think. I don't think all Luckies are bigger, but the ones you find in the wild are. Also, you could mine and chop wood with anything, including a shotgun. Pretty efficient actually, but pretty wasteful on gunpowder. Again, you can find Masandas in a lot of the same environment that you can find the bee guards, so you'll probably find plenty of these while you're looking for honey. As I've had you do in the first video, and as I'm sure you have, to be able to make cake. And that's kind of a prerequisite to being here, right? So just catch some Masandas while you're out, and you'll be fine. But also, again, there is a Masanda hill in this game, and you can bet there's plenty of Masandas on it. These guys themselves can actually be really helpful around your base. They do a lot of things, and they do a lot of things well. They're also pretty tough to encounter multiple of, so don't let them punch you out. They very well can. But that also makes them a capable brawler for your team as well. Masanda. It's one of those everything pals. Catch plenty. Catch now, catch often. Come on, get in the ball before I die. Oh look, it has friends. Alright, dodge that. Oh, here comes a punch. Dodge that. Alright, do we have another punch? Oh, are you going to get stuck by the tree? Well, thankfully I can stop you with rifle knockback. I wonder if there are other things I can stop with rifle knockback. Let's see, definitely stops things with shotguns. Ooh, nice. Defensive shotgun use is important. So, you're going to be breeding that Masanda with a Petalia. Petalia is also a field boss, as you can see. That's how I got this one. You could also maybe go a little bit harder on that breeding calculator I showed you earlier, and maybe even breed your own, but if not, and look at the Gale Claws in the distance, if you haven't picked one up yet, this is a place to get them, because they're definitely all over this place. But this is the Sealed Realm of Spirits. It's in the middle of a big stone circle. That's where you'll find Petalia. This is also another one's pretty easy to catch. Just be sure you don't accidentally body her. She is a little bit fragile, but she herself is also an incredible workhorse. And, I mean, just having her in Masanda already is pretty good for taking care of your cake farm in all of your farming needs and some other stuff as well. But not necessarily durable. Not in the way that some of these other pals will be, especially some of the next pals we're going to talk about, as we'll be getting into very literally the best pals in the game. I would say this probably marks about the last of the mid-range pals that we're going to talk about, in fact. Yup. Forgot the fire damage. Oh well. So that's going to give you Lylene, and if this girl looks familiar, it's because she is very much within the lore of this story. You may have even seen her statues about a time or two, or maybe in a field boss fight. Or maybe in a tower fight. But yes, Lylene. Very effective in just the best planter. Also good at gathering, so pretty much everything but the water. She is your gardener. All in one. Very good. Lylene. So I noticed that I left out the Phalaris from this guide. And that's because you need an Anubis, and I hadn't shown you how to make an Anubis yet. But you can combine that Anubis with a Vanworm to get the best flying mount in the game, almost, or at least the best one that you can breed, and also definitely the best Kindler, especially the best small compact package Kindler, and my preferred cake baker of choice. Just wanted to let you know that before we move on. So let's talk about how you make Anubis, because this is one of the best and most versatile units in the game. And also a handiwork 4, so anything that would usually require you standing there holding the work button to make it happen, Anubis can do it about 3 times as fast as you can, if not even faster. It's truly ridiculous how fast Anubis manufactures things. And the first combination is the Wyvern from earlier and a Chillet, which is also a field boss, one that you can find just hanging out at level 11 out in the field. So this is a really easy capture and an easy little hike down from Fort Ruins. And that, we have our own Chillet. Another combination is Azarobi if you've already made one, and Vanworm, which I've already recommended that you get. Another combination that's going to use some things that I know you have and we've already made is going to be Rayhound and Nightwing. Those two also combine to make Anubis, and I'm pretty sure that you have both. But if you also wanted a way to work Missandei into this, you can combine Missandei with Catris. Catris is also fairly helpful around the base, but I feel kind of falls weaker than Wixen. However, you can catch this one as a field boss as well. They're quite fast and absolutely adorable, and I really like the witch-themed ones, which is why I'm trying to breed the ultimate Wixen as well, but that's not going to come up in this guide. Maybe we'll talk about how to breed the ultimate passive beast later on, but for right now, it's enough to say that these two come together to make a wonderful Anubis. Especially given that my Missandei is lucky. Finding a way to use your luckies to breed into things like this is going to be really important, especially for Anubis, because Anubis also works into the calculus for a lot of other breeds down the road that you're doing from this point. As, you know, a very powerful, he is a strong father. In addition to, you know, he works hard, he can put in some work on your production lines, and he'll even keep you safe in the dark alleyways of Palworld. So this is another one that you're probably like breed 4, breed 6. Just get a lot of Anubis, because this is all around probably the best pal in the game. So get plenty. It's also cool to keep one of these on your team to be able to just throw it at assembly lines and get stuff done really fast. Handiwork 4, it also mines at level 3, making it one of the best miners in the game as well. And it has transporting 2, which is pretty helpful because it's going to be making a lot of debris as it mines, but it can clean up after itself, which is not a trait you always see. It also, by level 50, has some of the best moves in the game, which are very much exclusive to it, and it is basically a tactical nuke. You can just, with it out, tap things for damage, and it will go assassinate them for you. You're basically using a pistol as like a tactical nuke guidance system that sends Anubis flying into their death. From here, we're going to talk about how to create increasingly powerful electrical generators for your base while breeding into some of the most in-game pals. We're going to eventually get to Ozark, but first we're going to cross a Missandei with a Rayhound. Now, I know you already have a Rayhound, and I've been recommending you get a Missandei throughout this whole guide, so those two are going to come together to make Grisbolt. Grisbolt is, of course, one of this game's mascots, and one that we have definitely seen in a tower fight as well. The first one, if you have graduated past the tutorial, you've beaten this guy. Now, also, as it occurs to me, I have one working on my base right this moment, generating power for me. He does a couple other things which makes him really handy, and he's so good at generating power in most cases, unless you're running some really heavy duty stuff, that he can actually stop to do some of those other things too and still keep your base powered. You're going to be breeding that with a Relaxosaurus to get your next step. That's going to be Ozark, who himself is also a tower boss. Who'da thunk it? By the end of this guide, you will have all of the tower bosses under your control. And Ozark is the most powerful electrical generator in the game, but also can help you build things and is really good at transporting things around the base. And he's going to have plenty of time to do that because he's just going to overpower your electrical grid. He's very good at that. So the next thing, and for the next breed, we're going to have to catch a completely new pal. There's no good way to breed this necessarily, but thankfully they are all up in the northwestern desert region. Now, this is an area that you're going to want to be closer to level 30 to 40 to actually feel very safe in, but we're getting into some of the in-game pals, so you'll get there. So you'll find Suzaku just kind of chilling in the sky. It helps kind of to have a flying mount, and this can help spot them because they're just kind of above and out of your range of sight. This desert is also a good place to pick up a Toko Toko if you still need one or still want one for one of the other combinations. But we are pretty late in the guide, and this is also the riskiest desert to be in to do that stuff. I highly recommend the Duma Digatoise desert as opposed to the Suzaku and, well, a lot of electric types here. In fact, you could catch a Rayhound in this desert as well, but again, it's one of the first things I had you make, and this isn't really a viable place to be catching things for at least the beginning of the guide experience, because I want you to be able to start doing this from like level 19 when you've unlocked the breeding farm, and this is going to be kind of a progression that's going to keep up with you through the game. But also, bring something better than Gigaspheres. I can't believe this is the best ball that I have on hand, but at this point in the game, you're definitely going to be wanting Hyper Spheres to catch things in the highest levels of the wild regions that you can safely traverse. But even if you have Gigaspheres, all you really need is a lot of Gigaspheres and patience, and you'll eventually get it. And now you understand how I got bodied by Toko Tokos. Rip. Alright, so those two together is going to give us Astagon, who is basically a flying mining laser. He's not very fast. In fact, I don't even think he's faster than Nightwing necessarily, but wow, can he really cause some destruction on ore. And also, he's incredibly powerful, like very, very powerful POW to have for combat, and also one of the best miners, well, I think the best miner in the game, although he's pretty big, so I'm not sure that he's necessarily super practical. I think I would rather have a couple of Anubis on my base than fly an Astagon around, or have an Astagon flying around my base, but very powerful in-game POW partner. Also, he is required breeding to combine for the final POW that we're talking about for this guide, and the final tower boss, POW Shadowbeak. And that's going to be Astagon, crossed with one of the first things that I had you breed, Kitsun. And Kitsun and Astagon, their powers combined, create Shadowbeak, who is like adorable, also like really fast as a ground mount. In addition to being a flying mount, you can just kind of ride him around on the ground and he's faster than a lot of things. Maybe not if you have a specialized ground mount that is, you know, better and jumps better, but in theory there is no jump better than flying, so Shadowbeak's pretty cool. Also, Divine Disaster is just the most absurd skill. You've probably seen me use it a couple of times throughout this guide because Shadowbeak likes to just body everything around it as soon as possible with it at all times. It also gets used in a really scary form in the tower fight as well, because that Shadowbeak is just nuts. But with all of that being said, we've come to the conclusion of this guide, and I have very little left to offer you but some bloopers of me trying to catch things, but it just not working out for me. So with all of that, I want to remind you to like and subscribe, but also check out the link in the description to see more Jackie Fox throughout the internet, where I am not killing the most useful pals. I am doing other things, talking about other things and other games, but also, man, Pure and Noct, you are beautiful. And, well, let's get two in a row. Hey, look, it's a Nightwing. thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Unlike this night. He's going down.